Hello, friend. Welcome to Nirpa's Talk Show. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Garima, for my talk show to share her experience and thoughts with all of you. She is a dentist by profession. She is a DSOF certified English teacher and also an Udemy instructor and a public speaker. Recently, she is onboarded on Garvel's Charles, chartered by Toastmaster, and it is a very proud moment, we being the friend of Dr. Garima. Along with her many engagement that I have mentioned here, she's also associated with different communities and empowering through education, women empowerment, any other initiative to empower the society at large. I'm very glad that Dr. Garima has accepted my invitation to share her experience with all of us. Hello, Garima, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nirpa, for giving me this opportunity to share my views on your channel.
Thank you. Yeah, Garima, we'll talk about storytelling skills that you have been engaged with, right, through your online content and through your educational materials and engagement with children's and so on and so forth. Primarily, the storytelling becoming very significant considering the large number of engagement that is happening around the world today. Either it is corporate leaders or political leaders or social activities and so on and so forth. So what do you think, where does storytelling stand today, and how can we because I just probably you can tell something briefly about the storytelling skills, and then we'll take it forward.
Right. So let me tell you, storytelling was always there in our lives, just that we didn't know the importance of it.
True.
So when we were growing up, we learned and we came across so many stories that our grandmothers, our parents would tell us. But then we did not actually utilize the power of storytelling. Recently, it became a part of corporates because we know corporates, it is actually inundated with numbers, facts, figures, and the targets and goals. So how do you keep yourself and your team motivated? That's when you start using this tool, storytelling. So if you ask me, it has always been a part of our lives, just that we did not know the importance and did not use it to the fullest.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, but now this storytelling is skills becoming a very buzzword, right? And then it's like even in the professional environment, it is expected that we should learn that storytelling skills, right?
Yes, exactly. Because once you know and once you start telling the story, you can immediately create a connect with your audience. So even if you don't know people well, but the moment you tell stories, they tend to somewhere place themselves in your shoes and then they start looking at the world as per your eyes. So somewhere the storytelling is a great tool to encourage, motivate, or persuade someone. That is the reason it has become a buzzword these days.
Yeah. And then how to build that storytelling skills, primarily because we being a technical people, right? And then
Yes.
of course, nowadays it is complex and very integrated world where we need to connect with so many peoples. And before we tell about our technical products or solution and so on, we need to know how to connect first, build a relationship, and then talk the main story, right? So probably
Exactly, because when you're talking about selling product, people don't buy product, people don't connect with the product, they connect with people.
Exactly.
Right? So there storytelling comes into play. Now, like you're saying, that how do we build stories? Stories are a part of our lives, they're everywhere. Right?
Exactly.
So first of all, when you have to think of your stories and what stories you can share as a leader, first of all, divide your whole life till now into different parts. When you were young, a young child, then in your teenage, and then what you're experiencing now, right? And then start thinking. Again, you have to go down the memory lane and think of those moments that taught you something. From anything in your life that you learned a lesson, something you were struggling with, you overcame those struggles. So just divide and write down maybe a line or two. That's it. What was the incident and what did you learn from it? That becomes your story whenever you're talking about something, some struggle or something with someone else, you can quote that story. So, yes, whenever you have to write a story, you need to have your own story back. And it's not only your personal anecdotes. You can also be talking about some experiential stories wherein you were not the part, but maybe it was going on in front of you through someone else, right?
Yeah.
You can talk about that. Then there are so many observational stories. observational stories around. For example, there are so many things around that from which we can drive motivation. For example, water. Recently, I was about to make a video on the learnings from water. That yes, you can learn so many things from water itself.
Correct.
So these are observed stories. Just be a little more vigilant about things around you and your own life. There are so many stories to share. So start with that. And whenever you have to share a story, start with the context. What do I want to share? And why do I want to share? So through
True.
my story, what is that learning I want to give to my audience? That's how you start first collecting those stories and then sharing it with your audience.
Yeah, I got it. But the challenge is we don't know the audience most of the time, right? And then we kind of inferiority complex where I don't know how other people will take my story, and it become like maybe turned into something different, fun or a negative way. That kind of weaknesses is always there. So what do you think about this?
See, the thing is, stories are something that generates all those emotions. They're very evocative, by the way, right? So even if you don't know the audience, for example, my first day when I went in a class full of around 40, 45 grown up guys, boys, wherein I was looking so young. There, how did I start? I started with story because I did not know them. I did not know their culture. The problem is when you don't know the culture, then how do you go about?
True.
So I somewhere found something that was common between us. So that time the common thing was I was the language trainer and they were there to learn that language. They were there to learn English. So what was common? English was common. So I went back to my life. I talked about how I struggled in my English and how from there I took this all these things and I'm here as a trainer. So again, what was the context? It's just a language. Everyone can learn it. So because I did it, so can you, right? So somewhere there will be something common. If you're there, you are either there to motivate them, to persuade them, or even if you're there to entertain them. If you are there in front of the parents, you're just addressing parents. Talk about kids or what notorious things you
Yeah.
did as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So just you have to just figure out that one common thing between you and your audience. That's it, and then you can start from there.
Yeah, I think good point. Yeah. So what essentially you are saying is something common between the speaker and the audience, and you
Yes,
think that they will take it, they will also show the interest on that particular topic, right? Yeah, it
exactly.
perfectly, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I think your message should be taken positively by our audience. It is what you are essentially saying is storytelling will help to connect with the people, uh, and then build a relationship, and that will have, of course, can be maximized for the individual's growth and the organization growth, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, I want to listen little more detail, Dr. Garima, because the corporate leaders today is a lot of challenges is to connect with these youngsters, right? Even for us, like when we start building team building activities or start giving some of the technical webinar sessions and so on and so forth, more than 50-60% people are not giving the interest because we are not able to deliver the way they are interested, isn't it? So
Exactly.
it's just one area, but it applies to everywhere. We have to now we are dependent on uh, interconnected product, interconnected services, and deliver end-to-end solutions, right? So it is
Exactly.
like in the bigger organizations where you need to get the work done by different people having a different complementary skills. So
Exactly.
the collaboration and communication becoming so essentials, without which we cannot do any work. But then that
Right.
collaboration and communication is only possible when other people show the interest to talk with us. So that,
Exactly.
yeah. So therefore, that storytelling become very essential. I would love to hear more about the uh, what kind of message or what kind of suggestion that you want to give to our corporate leaders who can bring something more value
Right.
additions to this storytelling skills.
See, generally, as a leader, either you have to inspire your team or you have to talk about the vision that you have set for or the goal or target that you have set.
Exactly.
Now, the important thing is here that if you have to define the culture or values of an organization, how do you do that? Rather than just telling, just saying, the mind doesn't understand. Let's be very clear. Mind somewhere understands things which generate emotions. things that are very evocative, like images. We love images and we remember those images. So
Exactly.
how do we incorporate that? So just think that what do you want to say? Once you know that this is the message I want to convey, what you want your audience to do, or maybe your team members, what steps you want them to take. And then who said that you have to talk about a real story? You can cook up a story with all the learnings that is somewhere related to that particular learning, and then share it. Most of the time, when you talk about people's weaknesses as your own weakness, that's when you create a connect. People
Wow.
connect when they will never connect when you tell them that you are here and people are here. They will never connect. You have to come down to their level. And how do you come down? Obviously, you also started your career from here. So talk about that. The way you started your career. How many struggles did you face to learn or to build up that particular organization or that particular team? Right? So when you start sharing your story, your journey, and walking your team through it, they will be able to realize exactly what you believe in and what you want them to do. So you should be, first of all, very clear in your mind. What is it that you want them to do? And then you need to work backwards and start sharing your stories and connecting with them.
Yeah, I think the key point is basically come to the level where audience also match the frequency, right?
Exactly. You have to match the frequency. Otherwise, like even in the radio, we say the
But that
frequency
was the
isn't
missing point,
matching.
Garima. That was the missing point. Yeah, because we just talk in the way we love to talk, and we don't care about what other people's probably. Yeah, the frequency matching is the key takeaways here. Good point. Let's move to the probably last part of our discussion, right? So again, coming back to the storytelling, because this is the whole discussion that storytelling is all about, right? And then this is the area where any technical people or corporate leaders somehow missing. That is what I feel. But then it is. Then what is your personal journey? Basically, the leveraging. You have been the Udemy instructor, content creator, and publishing a lot of content to the online education portals and getting the good reviews that I have seen. And even I have gone through
Right.
some of your content, right?
Thank
So
you.
obviously those contents has become popular because you are able to integrate your personal story or observation story with your content, right? So probably you can share your experience. How did you started
Yes,
your
definitely.
journey and what kind of feedback and so on and so forth? Probably that will be the some of the learnings to my audience.
True, true. See, the thing is, I belong to a humble background, and my grandfather shared lots and lots of stories about my father and his struggle. Now,
Hmm.
those stories somewhere became an integral part of me, and that was something that motivated me to give in the best. So,
Hmm.
not that we never had that money, but I knew the importance of money through my father's eyes. Why?
Hmm.
Because someone told me the story. So, yes,
Hmm.
I knew that story is something that can be used to connect. And then I got into this line of teaching and everywhere. And whether I'm interacting with kids or I'm interacting with adults, whether I'm teaching a batch of adult students or kids, first thing is I introduce my own stories, my life stories. Because yes, I did have problems with English. I was mocked on, I was laughed on. My pronunciation, people used to laugh at it. Now, from that to a place wherein I am teaching pronunciation to people, yes, it's a long journey, but I made it. So that is what I share, and I share my journey with them. So that creates an initial connect. And that brings me to somewhere I read Steve Jobs' quote, wherein he said, the most powerful person in the world is a storyteller. Why?
Yeah.
Because storyteller sets the vision, the values, and agenda for the entire generation.
True.
And I can vouch for it. Reason being, that's my story.
Yeah.
It was my grandfather who somewhere made me had a role in what I am today. He's not here anymore. I was young when he passed away, but what I am today, somewhere his stories are a reason to that. So when you share your stories, even with young kids, you are telling their brain and you are giving their brain some positive notes.
Yeah.
So I would say, as a parent, you should always convey, you should not be telling your kids to do this or that. Like your team members, they will not listen. You have to connect through stories, share their learning through stories. And then the moment you do that, people will fall in line and they will start listening to you.
Yeah, I completely agree. See, in our house, right, my son is 11 years old and daughter is 7 years. So I know very few stories. So then sometime I want to educate my son through the stories. And which I have told probably uh, 5, 10, 5, 6 years back. But nowadays I want to tell, but he already tell, no, Baba, you have told already. This story I have heard when I was small. The amount of
So,
memory, I'm surprised them how come. So that reminds me that wow, storytelling is very powerful. So he
it is.
remembers all the story, whatever few I know, and that too I have told in 5 years back, 6 years back. So you can understand the power of storytelling.
No, no, definitely. See, you have to share your life stories when you were that age. For example, my daughter, she's a teenager. Now, she has all the problems like all the teenagers have, and they generally tend to clam up. They don't share. So, how do I talk to her? How do I know what is going on in her life?
Hmm,
So, I can't ask what is going on. So,
exactly.
indirectly, then I started with my stories. When I was a teenager, I used to do this, these things happened. What about you? And that's when she starts opening up. Now, I'm not going to say that in one day itself she's going to tell everything, but
Yeah.
yes, she starts opening up and I get to know what is going on in her life,
Yeah.
right? So that is how storytelling helps.
Yeah. I remember when you said that you start telling, sharing your experience. Even same thing for me. So now, because I get very minimum time apart from my work. So whenever uh, I take a break, I make sure that I also enjoy with them talking a lot of funny things and so on. So my son and that funny thing is nothing but I tell about my of experience when I was a child, right? Some of the during our time there was not such kind of restriction and so on and so forth. I tell that morning I used to uh, somehow if I able to leave the house up, keeping my father's eyes away, 10 o'clock, then I'll come at 5, 6 o'clock evening. So that kind of real story when I share that is what my son want to hear and my daughter also, right?
Yes.
So yeah, those stories they are very I think memorable. But one thing I remember, I mean I'm observing nowadays, my daughter who is 7 years old, she's able to craft the stories herself and able to organize and imagine herself and able to say beautifully. Of course, she's also fond of talking and creating videos and sharing. So what is this skills all about? It is something like inbuilt she is coming, or she's because of influence by a lot of TV's story that she's engaging with. How, what is your observation on this?
See, being a parenting coach, I
Yeah.
know kids are natural storytellers,
Right.
right?
So beautiful.
Natural. Just let me take you down. When you were younger, maybe you were a 7 or 8 year old boy and you did some mistake and you were confronted. Who broke this? You would come up with a story that okay, something happened and it broke, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, we all knew stories, just that we did not know the power of stories that time. Stories
True.
were always a part, like I said in the beginning, stories were always a part of our life. We just did not understand that how useful and how strong tool it can be. Now
Right.
it is used as a tool, but it was always a part. So, and whereas these kids are concerned, these curious, innovative, creative kids, they are natural storytellers.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing also, I just want to share with you. I'm not sure how it looks like, but then uh, probably when something we love to communicate, to share by heart, it becomes more powerful. Why? My father is not a today's this public speaking course and so on and so forth, or this vocal variety, language and all. There is he don't know anything, but the way he communicate, some of his observation, story, experiences, and what he wanted to do. Even my wife who came, of course, recently, right, 9 years before in my house, she also observed this and she sometimes appreciate the way my father talks and she want to listen. So he's not a public speaker, but then probably he loved the
Yes.
talking and conveying the message in the proper way, and it becomes so beautiful and attraction. So what I mean to say about this point here is, if something we will love and something we genuinely want to share and convey to the audience, we don't need that any further skills. What do you think?
Exactly. If you're authentic about it, like I was talking about my
Exactly.
grandfather,
Yeah.
he was only, I think he studied till grade fifth. That's it,
True.
grade
True.
fifth. And then he was telling the stories that shaped my life. These stories
Exactly.
actually shaped my life. So if you are yourself, if you're authentic, if you're passionate about it, then you don't need to go through all these things and learn the skills. But
Exactly.
yes, people who don't know, they can learn because it's a learnable skill. It's a
True.
learnable skill. You just
True.
have to put your thoughts into right words, use some evocative languages, vivid verbs, something, and some analogies to connect. That's it. How will people understand? You need to draw an analogy
Hmm.
between their situation and your story. Just draw an analogy and you're through it.
Yeah. And the probably last part which I want to share again. But like any other skills, I think it is require a practice, because
Yes, it
I
does.
will share my story. Yeah, I was very uncomfortable when talking and so on. But then since last 2 years, I'm connecting through videos and so on. So I am somehow manageable at this moment, and that is possible only because I'm talking regularly or occasionally, at least with you guys and all, right? That is how if we people start sharing the experiences or observe stories, personal experience or observed story, whenever the opportunity comes or whenever the suitable place and time comes, I think that will be the way forward. What do you think?
Exactly. See, one thing that we involuntarily do is breathing. But then mindful breathing is something that you practice. You practice
Exactly.
mindful breathing, right? So
True,
when
true.
breathing is what you need to practice and do well, then it is obviously a skill. So
Exactly.
anything that you practice, you will definitely do it well,
Yeah.
right? So yes, it is a skill that we most of us have it, but we don't know how to put it in words. And once we start practicing it day in, day out, you'll be one of the best storytellers.
True. I think for student also, right? I have recently read somewhere where if students are engaged and through some of the storytelling skills, and then of course some of the collaborative skills and sharing through and he become more kind of a popular, and then subsequently through this kind of engagement he will there is a high chance that he can be also a lifelong learner, or he will have develop his skills where it will help him to learn continuously, which is the
Exactly.
need of the hour.
Exactly. That is the need of the hour because, like I always tell my students, if you have an idea or if you have a thought about something and you're unable to share it, then your idea will stay within you and within your mind, and world will not get to know. You won't be able to make any changes. Now, imagine Kalam, Mr. Kalam, right? He was a great scientist, but then at the same time, he communicated his ideas. He told everyone, right? So again, whether it is any field, I'm not talking about only English, but any field, you have to communicate your thoughts well. Once you learn doing that, then again, sky's the limit for you. Because you need to reach out to people. And how do you do that? You have to communicate well. So yes, it is an important skill. And communication, how do you build an instant connect? Storytelling is the thing.
Yeah, no story lives unless someone wants to listen. The stories we love best do live in us forever. Whatever you come by page or by the screen, said by J.K. Rowling. I think it is rightly said, because I
Exactly.
remember some of these renowned authors' books, right? They started writing because they themselves are motivated, saying that all this their engagement was been accepted by the audience only because they are able to convey through the storytelling skills rather than the very high quality content. But the content is important, but if we can integrate with the storytelling, I think that is the best strategy. So it is not,
Exactly.
Dr. Garima, I'm very glad that you have given me some time. And it was a very, very insightful discussions from the storytelling perspective, from overall personality development perspective. I look forward to connect with you again with this kind of insightful talk. Till then, I wish your all these endeavors that you have been engaged with should be flourish and make a successful entrepreneur and give us the lot of value to the society. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nipa. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.